I've been a fan of the Oilers since 2011, I think. So I've been there through all the ups and through all the downs. Mostly there's only been one major up, really, or two, I guess. But yeah, I've been in 2011. I went to an Oilers game when I wasn't a fan of them. I just went because I was in Edmonton, and Taylor Hall scored a hat trick, his first hat trick of his career. So kind of switched me to, or it didn't switch me, but that's how I initially got to be an Oilers fan. And then obviously a few years later, we won McDavid. We kept losing a couple playoff runs, up and down, like I said. But so I've been with the Oilers. But other than the Oilers, I like to basically just support all the guys from Nova Scotia because I'm living in Toronto from Nova Scotia. So McKinnon, obviously this year, even Marchand and Crosby, and so those guys.
Okay, so obviously Crosby's the most popular, but who's second?
Oh, it's definitely McKinnon. I mean, there's still people in Nova Scotia who I know that don't like Marchand, which I find kind of silly because obviously
that's not a hot take.
I know it's not a hot take, but you gotta support. I mean, I find like anyway you can support the local boys. I mean, we're not a very big province, so McKinnon and Crosby, they come home every summer. Crosby's been doing that since he was really young, so it's kind of like those two hang out, do everything together, train together, and then Marchand does it too. He is like a family as well, though, so I don't know if he is exactly with them as much, but those three kind of they're staples around Nova Scotia, especially in the summer. So I always keep an eye out on them.
Do you want to transition the Oilers talk into maybe Battle
let's
of Alberta?
let's talk about Battle of Alberta because Jeff is over there as a big Oilers fan.
Right, yeah.
And we've seen a couple battles between Calgary and Edmonton the last few weeks.
Yeah.
Obviously not as relevant right now this week, but next matchup's what, April 4th, last game of the year?
Yeah, last game for both sorry to cut you off, but last game of the season for both teams, so potential playoff implications. I mean, the fact that these two teams could even play each other in the first round, and maybe that game can determine a home advantage for one team. So I just think that game is going to have a lot on the line. I think it's going to be really crazy.
Oh, yeah. I think so, too. The interesting thing about this year was we played all of our Vancouver games before we even played Calgary once. So, the Oilers' schedule is really mixed up. It's, two of, the main teams we play and are really important to where we place. So, all the Vancouver games are done, and I like the Canucks more than I like the Flames, but I was like, all right, guess it's time to get into the Flames games, and then, this happened, and it's whoa, it was a lot more than I was expecting, but it is exciting because I have been looking for a place to talk about this. Obviously, me and Ty, we've been going at it a little bit about everything that happened. I just want to, obviously it's a couple weeks ago, but I just want to quickly touch on the Tkachuk hit or
the original.
Yeah, the original kind of started it. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, Tkachuk, we were gonna draft Tkachuk if we didn't make that mistake on Puljujärvi. So there's a little bit of bad blood there, a little extra salt in the wound. Is he could have been playing on McDavid's wing if we didn't make that blunder. So that kind of sucks. I feel you, bro. I mean, the hit was whatever, but I thought him turtling after obviously greasy was a little greasy. I saw Cassian as more of a veteran player in the league, maybe because he's just been around a lot longer, even though he's not even that old, as we saw by his new contract he signed. But so I thought maybe it was
so old though.
I thought older.
I mean, the guy has been since he was 24, he looked like he was 42.
Yeah,
no exaggeration.
Maybe, yeah. So I thought it was a little disrespectful to turtle on him. I mean, he's a vet in the league. It's one thing if he's making runs at guys in their first year. That'd be greasy for a whole nother reason. But anyway, that is what it is. I mean, it happened. He answered the bell, which was definitely respectable on Tkachuk's part, and he even fought the next game too. So it is what it is.
Yeah, but this past game was crazy. I mean, good result for you as an Oilers fan. 8-3 final, I believe.
Yeah, well, I mean, considering we had lost every game up until then, wasn't great. But we had a 4-3 loss on January 11th, then a 4-3 loss, a shootout loss on the 29th. So that was this big game that everything kind of happened in. So the Oilers really needed a win there. A lot of stuff was happening around the same time that kind of added to the story, which you don't really see in hockey that much. A lot of things went right. The McDavid documentary was happening with Giordano. The stick flip at the end of the shootout game, that added some to the fire. And that was this was all after the hitting and everything like that. So the Yamamoto call up kind of helping the Oilers through these times. Really important piece. Obviously,
he's been playing great.
Yeah, he's been huge, and he came out right at the right time. Helped the Draisaitl torch the Flames, which is beautiful to see with 4 assists that night. Yeah, and then we got the 4 assists, we got the goalie fight, which was interesting. I'd like to hear your guys'
can you call it much of a fight? I don't know.
What?
It's pretty
a full fight.
I don't know if Talbot even had a punch in. I'm just saying in terms of one-sided.
No, Mike Smith was the guy in that fight. I was actually telling Jeff, I'm at the bar.
Smith's a warrior.
Oh, Mike Smith is crazy. But I'm at the bar and I'm talking to this girl or whatever, right? We're just chilling.
Oh, really?
Right? No, so we're playing pool. We're having a little bit of a pool tournament, and I'm just chilling, and the game's on the big TV or whatever.
Yeah.
Not focusing. Game was just on, heavy game, Flames, Oilers. And then all of a sudden, I'm talking to this girl. I turn over, and Mike Smith is chilling at the red line.
Yeah.
And I'm
Just
what's
hanging
going on here? And then Cam Talbot comes in hot, and Mike Smith starts feeding him. And there wasn't much. Cam Talbot maybe got one little
I don't even know
softy
if he
in.
did. Maybe a shoulder pad grab.
That's
at
another
best.
storyline that wasn't even talked about. Talbot was literally our goalie last year. He was he
Yeah.
single-handedly single-handedly brought us to a playoff series, brought us to the playoffs. Not single-handedly obviously, but in net he played 73 games or something disgusting like that year. So Oilers fans have a very soft spot for Talbot obviously, and then Smith obviously was on Calgary before. It didn't work out as great there, but that was just another storyline. It's two former goalies going at each other. So even when Talbot got beat up, after he's yeah, I knew I was going to get beat up, but it's you got to go for the goalie fight. I mean,
you don't see that often where it's the two goalies literally switched
Definitely,
spots.
yeah.
They literally switched spots, right?
I definitely respected Talbot after that. I mean, I still obviously liked him from that run. But then the other player that I thought interesting from that was Lucic. Lucic got a ton of slack after that for not fighting. Obviously, they brought him in for these heavy minutes, which is a whole other thing about the Calgary fans trying to justify that trade.
Yeah,
but
that's the worst trade.
they try to bring him in for heavy minutes, and then he doesn't fight against the Oilers in arguably the biggest the biggest games of the year for them. But I mean, Lucic, when he was on the Oilers, he never fought guys from Boston or LA. He's just not the type of guy to fight.
It's kind of
people
weird.
Like that.
He's more of a protection kind of guy.
Yeah,
Lucic will get. And I don't know if you remember the Lucic when he was with Boston. He came in hot and just absolutely smoked Ryan Miller.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember that one, but
that.
Ryan Miller went flying and then swung his stick at him. Lucic doesn't really care, but he's not going to go out of his way to fight. Also,
and he just doesn't fight his former teammates. I mean, it was something he did in Edmonton. It was something he's doing in Calgary. I don't know if that was the right choice. I mean, he wasn't even on the ice. What's he supposed to do? Jump the bench and get suspended for an entire year? I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so I thought that was kind of interesting.
Let's be honest though, fighting is a young man's sport. At the point of Lucic's career,
fighting is a young man's sport, but I mean, there's
maybe you just take your fourth line roles for what
I don't want to get in there and fight so much.
Wake up with a sore back in the morning.
I mean, I guess.
Come on, Mitch. Even Ethan Bear fought that game. You know.
That's the thing. Is there's no fighters.
I guess it is the Battle of Alberta.
Yeah.
And just talking about this, I feel just this being a talking point in itself. The NHL needs more rivalries like this during the regular season.
Yeah.
We see it during the playoffs a little bit here and there, but during the regular season, despite those ratings, you're talking about, all these storylines coming together.
I know. It was a perfect storm. It was beautiful to watch as an Oilers fan, the whole thing, even if we did suffer some losses. Since then, I mean, I came in here a little beat up because last night we did get smacked by San Jose, who should have beaten, but you never know with the Oilers, so that sucked. But I mean, didn't really take away from the excitement of that Battle of Alberta. I didn't find, like you said, we don't play until the end of the year. Yeah. A lot's gonna happen between then. Hopefully, the division will maybe even itself out, but who knows?
Mm-hmm. Last point. Oh, sorry. No.
What do you think of the Pacific right now? Just
what I think of Pacific. I mean,
just it's very tight. Who do you see right now as the favorite? Who do you see as maybe a dark horse in there? I know you're going to be biased, but...
Well,
never.
In terms of the Pacific, it's obviously I want the Oilers to make it. There's great teams that are still fighting. Vancouver's been leading for a while with 65 points,
They've been hot too.
Which isn't even that many. 60 it's only a few points ahead of us. But we the Oilers had a chance to jump on it. The Calgary had a chance to get on it, and they couldn't. Calgary's lost their games. Vancouver's lost I think their past 2, so they're kind of staying stagnant. Yeah, so
before
they're stagnant.
that though, they went on.
At 65 points there, 55 played, and then they got the Golden Knights obviously in the shuffle. In terms of the Pacific, I mean, it's anyone's game. It's literally 5 points between
Come
us.
on, give me a prediction.
All right, okay, I'll go. Hopefully, I'd like Oilers first, obviously, then the Nucks, then Golden Knights, then leave Calgary out. But the more interesting part is that the 2 wild card spots are currently held by the Coyotes and the Flames, so 2 Pacific teams. But the Predators are 1 point behind. The Jets are only 1 point behind. They sucked for so long, but they're still in the hunt. The Blackhawks are only 2 points behind that last wild card. So the whole Western Conference is going to be like a gong show until the end. So,
Well, Vegas dismantled. I don't know if you guys saw the game last night. Dismantled Florida.
7-2 final, I think, right?
Insane.
Yeah.
You're talking about Mark Stone put up 5 points. Pacioretty put up, I think, a couple goals as
First
well.
5-point game by any Golden Knight ever. So good for
and
him.
they fired. Imagine where they would be if they didn't fire their coach.
That was the one. I'll tell you right now, Jeff. That was the one that completely just. I shook my head.
Firing Gallant, bringing in DeBoer.
It made. I mean, I see the kind of the head game in hiring a guy like DeBoer. I can see how DeBoer can come to Vegas and fire it up, but
he's not a bad coach by any
the Golden Knights were I think I don't know if they were either in a wild card spot or
they were
1 point out.
They were
right there. They were right.
They've been in the hunt the whole time. I typically don't like the teams in my division, but I like the Golden Knights. I don't really have any beef with them. It's kind of nice to see them do good again. So I've been kind of paying attention a little bit to them, obviously. But yeah, they weren't even doing that bad before they fired Gallant.
They were inconsistent.
Yeah,
they were inconsistent.
There's definitely tons of stuff happening behind the scenes for something like that to happen. But to bring in DeBoer and then to win some games, I mean, they're sitting second, albeit by 1 point ahead of the Oilers. They're still sitting in second with DeBoer at the head. Who knows? It could be a good move for them in the end, and maybe we'll see them in the finals.
Honestly, if I could place my prediction right now, and I said this at the start of the year, I would think actually Vegas finishes in that top spot.
Hot take.
Sure.
It's not even a hot take, man. I think
no,
Vegas
they're
is
the most talented team in the division.
I think the only move they need to make is on
they
that
are.
back end.
Yeah.
Jeff wants to argue this right now?
No.
Hey, we got other topics to get to.
Bro, okay, before we get to the next topic, Vegas is from top to bottom the most talented roster in that division.
Okay, but that defense is really bad. On paper, it's not as bad because Marc-Andre Fleury makes up for things and they actually haven't been that bad in terms of structure, but on paper, who's their best guy? Nate Schmidt, Shea Theodore.
Yeah, but
they don't have
the same guy they had for the last couple years, and they've been right in the mix.
No, but what I'm saying is in the playoffs, you're gonna see their star power up front, in that top six: Mark Stone, Max Pacioretty, William Karlsson, Riley Smith, Jonathan Marchessault, and then the goaltending. Mitch, you've been a Pens fan for so long. Ty, you've been a Pens fan for so long. You saw what. Yes, Fleury had his struggles, but you saw how Fleury can just change a game, completely.
He's probably still one of the best goalies in the league, and he's how old? 30.
Yeah, he was voted the goalie of the decade, I believe.
I've said this so many times that Pens second cup, if not for Fleury, Matt Murray went down, and then Fleury won that series against the Caps. The first two rounds was
in 2017. You're saying, right? Yeah.
The second cup was all Fleury. If not for, and then Matt Murray still came in the net, which I thought was kind of the slap in the face, and I thought that was just the turnover for Fleury definitely going to Vegas.
Yeah.
But if not for Fleury, Pens don't beat the Caps that year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's definitely, compared to the other goalies in the division right now, I know Rittich is playing for Calgary, but I definitely trust Fleury over him. Plus, the Canucks goalies, I don't think they've been.
Markstrom's been okay.
No, they've been good. I'm just saying, they don't have the experience and the history. If I'm taking any goalie in the Pacific, obviously you're picking Fleury. So it's a good advantage for them for sure.
So we'll transition here. I wanted to maybe fire up Jeff on this show, but we're gonna hey, we're gonna save that debate for another one. We were gonna talk about basically Draisaitl Matthews. We'll save that for another one.
No.
Bro,
literally
yesterday.
On the comments, see what people think.
Right now,
I know
what do you guys think?
Ask the question.
On YouTube, Spirit Live. Do you guys think we should touch at the end of the show a little debate,
we'll either touch on it now or we'll touch on it
later? We can let it kind of
let it steep. I know it's a big debate in the hockey world. Obviously, I'm saying Draisaitl's better. I watch him every single night. I don't really watch. I don't watch as much Matthews, so you don't know, and I know you watch a lot. So
well, I'll say this, and it drives me nuts. Some Leaf fans, and this is embarrassing to actually say, would actually say, if there was a trade, offer of McDavid versus Matthews, they would say no. They would say no, and it makes me cry.
Anyway, so speaking about your Leafers, though, you can kind of go into
so the trade. So yes, 2 days ago now, they came in yesterday. They had their interviews. Jack Campbell's slated to start. He was in the starter's net this morning for practice. So Jack Campbell, Kyle Clifford to the Leafs, 2 third-round picks, 1 conditional, and Trevor Moore to the LA Kings.
Who had an expiring contract, I believe, right? He was a free agent this summer?
Who, Trevor Moore?
Trevor Moore always has an expiring contract.
So Trevor Moore, he's a guy that, came out of college. He's a Cali boy, and he went from basically a nobody to a Calder Cup champion to like a solid NHLer, third, fourth line guy. He's going to go to LA. LA already has a couple guys from, that were Toronto guys like Carl Grundstrom in that Jake Muzzin trade. I think more will probably, LA's bad. Like, LA is one of the worst teams in the league.
They're so bad.
They're so bad.
But are they supposed to be good? Like, I don't
No,
think
they're
anyone
supposed to
had
be
them in
bad.
the
They're supposed to be
playoffs.
bad.
I just don't know how they went from winning Stanley Cups like with consistency and being a team that every year they're dangerous in the playoffs to being like the worst team.
They're like bottom
or
three,
one of
whatever
the
they are,
worst teams.
Yeah.
Like, how can your
Quick fell
organization
off.
do that and you still have the core pieces of what got you there?
Quick fell off. Doty's like a defensive demon. Like, he's not gonna be like, you need more pieces than Doty, even if he is one of their core like good pieces.
Yeah.
You need more pieces.
Plays
than
like the
him.
most minutes in
Yeah.
the league, second most.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
then
he's up there.
there's
Doughty was a
lot of
mess
problems.
last year,
Yeah.
completely. But just on the Leafs, man, like, I think they filled two needs. Like, Hutchinson was kind of, I feel bad for the guy, but he was kind of embarrassing himself. Like, there was like at least 2 goals per game where you were just like shaking your head as a fan or just like a guy watching the game. And then, the Leafs have had this like around them. Put aside like kind of like the narrative of like the Leafs having a crappy defense. I would still argue, honestly, now with like their additions, I would still argue the Leafs have like an average or above average at this point, because I look at a lot of other teams and like, yes, goaltending saves them. I think Freddie Anderson was like kind of, compared to like his start of the year, he's kind of got off a bit. Besides that, their one thing was like they didn't have the toughness. They didn't have guys to protect their like star players. Kyle Clifford's that, and Dubas even said in an interview like, we want that toughness, but we're kind of past like the toughness kind of enforcer like that can't play.
Yeah, not even the toughness, but just like grit. Like,
well, basically today's NHL is past like the Colton Orrs and like
the
and like
guys,
those kind of guys, you know.
Guys that can block shots, kill
You've
penalties.
seen it. I
you
mean,
need
like
those
with
guys.
the Penguins and the Caps and these teams the last few years that have
Tom
been
Wilson.
able to win.
Tom Wilson,
like even like a Hornquist or somebody like
Yeah.
that, where it's like they still have the skill, or maybe they're fast or they have speed, but they can go in those corners, get mucky and all that stuff. Like the Leafs the last couple of years, it just feels like they're trying to get away with skill alone, and when you go to the playoffs, you can't win on just skill alone, especially the way the refs call the game.
Yeah, no, I think without a doubt the Leafs win that trade. I think it's a no-brainer. Something to keep note of: the Leafs play a back-to-back this weekend. They play tonight and tomorrow.
Yeah.
Do you see Campbell starting both? Because
that's the big
Anderson
question.
isn't traveling. And
No,
do
Anderson's
you think
not.
Keefe still has faith?
Well,
in
yeah.
Hutchinson?
So game tonight's in Toronto. Game tomorrow's in Montreal. And the thing is, like Dubas and kind of Keefe, they didn't say it, but they kind of implied it, saying like Jack Campbell, we could see maybe him starting both games.
Yeah.
Honestly, we'll see how he plays tonight. It's against the Anaheim Ducks. This will be like the real test. You lost against the Panthers, which the Panthers are decent. Panthers also
same
got
kind of
messed
thing.
up. The Rangers are not good. Like the Rangers, like they have an okay team on roster, but like they're not good. The Leafs shouldn't have lost that game. It was embarrassing.
I got a couple fantasy points off that start for sure. That was nice.
Well, I'll tell you right now, the Anaheim Ducks are even worse than that.
Yeah.
Like they still got they got their younger guys coming up, Sam Steele, Max Jones, guys like that, and then they got obviously still Ryan Getzlaf, who's old. He's old.
Yeah.
And John Gibson's been okay this year. Like he's still a top 10 goalie in my opinion. But other than that, like their defense is okay. Like Josh Manson's been in trade rumors, but the Anaheim Ducks are not good. Like if the Leafs don't win tonight, like there's gonna be there's gonna be problems because like a lot of fans
posting more videos. On your
there's
channel?
probably gonna be a rant. There's gonna be a rage
ranting on your channel again.
Like
with
I'm all chill right now because I'm expecting a win tonight. Like knock on wood. Like come on, everyone's looking for a win
I was
tonight.
expecting a win last night against San Jose, and then we get the 2-0 lead, and then
That was bad last night.
Is this a big enough upgrade at goalie?
No.
Well, for a backup position, you're talking about Freddie Anderson being out. When Freddie Anderson,
Yeah, I know. I'm talking about backup because as the season goes on, you
think
need
about
a
it.
backup.
Okay, think about it.
Yeah, you
the
need a
LA
good
Kings,
backup,
Mitch, I'll put
really.
this in perspective for you. The LA Kings have Drew Doughty, and then they have Alec Martinez. After that, their defense is like really bad. And Jack Campbell has still managed to put up a 900 save percentage to like 84 goals against average. Last year, even better numbers. He's played, I think, about 20 games this year, 25 games.
He's got 20 on the year.
Yeah, and last year Johnny Quick was down with an injury. Jack Campbell played significant amount of games, so like he has the experience, especially considering like out west. He has the experience of like playing a significant amount of games, and I'm not saying that he's gonna have to play a significant amount of games. We're down the stretch of like the season. He's probably gonna have to play 5 or 6 more games this season, and then the playoffs, it's Freddie Anderson, right?
So how long?
Well-
how much longer you got to rely on him? How much longer is Anderson out for? Like is
Today,
It's
possibly
not just
tomorrow.
that,
I
though.
can't. Well, I can't
tomorrow
see,
for
and I'll.
sure. He's not traveling.
He's
right?
not. Yeah. Well, what I'm gonna say is, I don't know what's in. Like I'm seeing. They're gonna have to see what they're saying tonight for Campbell, because at the end of the day, the Canadians are a better team than the Ducks. So there's no way you're putting Campbell in net tonight
And have Hutchinson.
and then Hutchinson in net in Montreal.
True.
We're talking about the Bell Center. We're not talking about like quiet Anaheim. Well, actually, Anaheim's not that bad. I went there, but we're not talking about like Ottawa
Shots fired.
Senators or like Florida or Arizona. We're talking about the
did
Bell
lose to
Center,
Florida.
arguably like the loudest building there is.
Yeah.
And you're gonna put Hutchinson in.
But I don't think it's just that. Like, I think it's also down the stretch. You want to keep him rested. You want to keep Freddie rested.
Yeah, but Freddie's gonna be back. It's a neck. Like neck injuries are sensitive.
I see
obviously,
Campbell
but
playing like maybe at
Anderson will
most
be back
8
next
to 10
week.
games. Like that's.
honestly, I don't even think it'll be that
you
much.
don't
Like
think-
I'm
you
gonna
don't
say,
think he hits 8?
man, and I mean, depending if like what the injury is. Well, the other thing we'll talk about in a second, then we'll move on to the next topic. But
What about Clifford the Big Red Dog, bro?
Clifford the Big Red. Well, no, that guy will probably be in a fourth line role. I can't see him being more than that.
Kyle Clifford?
I don't know. Clifford's gonna be a much
First
some
power
driver.
play unit for him, or
Dude,
No.
it's the classic Leafs. I've been saying this for years and years and years. The Leafs.
here we go.
The Leafs will trade for a guy who's like decent, might make an impact. They'll trade like this. Obviously, it's not this trade, but this is just what I've experienced.
I
being
think this
around
was a
Leafs fans.
solid trade, in my
They'll
opinion.
trade like a
yeah.
sixth round pick for some scrub on like an AHL like second line, and they'll be like, "Dude, this guy was actually sick in high school. Like, I'm sure like he can have a breakout. Like I know he
Okay,
has
Because
it."
come
in him."
on. Okay,
that's,
come
that's
on.
the Toronto
That's the
media.
Toronto
that's
media.
not like the
Okay, but
Leafs.
that come on.
I mean, like it's just
Clifford.
true,
Okay, we're not gonna hype up this trade to like this insane thing.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
like
He's a fourth rounder.
They
or
traded-
fourth liner.
they traded
help you.
two third round picks and Trevor Moore, who was on their fourth line anyways, for a guy that's gonna be more influential for this team
Yeah.
that needed some grit, needed some toughness,
Yeah.
and a backup goalie, which was literally their biggest need at this point. Like a
Yeah.
defense, like I said, put that aside. Their biggest need was a backup goalie. Hutchinson back-to-back losses, it was gonna get messy. They had to make this trade.
Andy scored 40 goals when he was a senior in high school, so you know he could do it again. Who
True.
knows?
Hey,
Okay.
but he has 14 points this year, so
I have a
Not
question
bad.
for you.
Yeah.
Let's assume the Leafs make the playoffs. I
Yeah.
mean, if they don't,
Oh,
in Toronto, I'm going home for the weekend that happens.
Watch
'cause
out,
this place
kids.
is
Dude,
gonna
I'm
set
s-
on
no,
fire.
I
I'm
like-
can't
stay-
wait
I'm-
for this
Yeah,
show.
I'm staying
Oh
here
my
and
gosh.
watching it burn
Yeah.
down. What do
Okay,
you
but
mean?
if they make the playoffs and they lose in the first round again, like where do you go from there? Like it's got to be unacceptable at this point, considering. The
I mean,
lineup they
I don't
have
know
on
if you go. I
paper.
mean, look what happened to Tampa. They got swept against Columbus, and they still didn't do anything. They still said, "Okay, we're gonna regroup." They didn't.
Yeah,
They
but you
literally
don't-
made no
but
changes.
You think the Leafs have the same team that the Tampa does to do that? Tampa has like the deepest
on paper
team.
they should though. Like if you look
On
at the names on their
yeah,
top six,
Jeff,
like,
I've always said this. Tampa's deeper.
Well, I mean,
on-
clearly they don't have the players Tampa
they're
does.
not as
Tampa's-
deep as
like,
Tampa.
Tampa's-
Tampa's
the past
Tampa's
2 years.
deeper. Tampa's deeper.
Yeah.
But if you look at stars, they're not like completely far off. I mean, Tampa's got their big four. Toronto's got
Is
their big
that
four.
because
Yeah.
they're from Toronto though, or they play in Toronto?
What do you
so
mean?
your top forward's a star. even
Okay,
if he's not
okay,
the
we're
best
gonna
player
okay.
in-
Obviously, Kucherov's more established than Matthews, but Matthews is that top 10 caliber forward.
Mhm.
John
I can agree with
Tavares.
that.
I
John
know,
Tavares,
I'm
Steven
just-
Stamkos. Would you say
I'm
Tavares
saying,
and
do you
Stamkos are
think-
so far
Do you
off?
think Kucherov and Stamkos would be bigger than they are playing in Toronto?
Obviously,
Okay,
right
that's all
now.
I'm trying to say.
Obviously,
I'm
right now.
Yeah.
I'm just putting that out there.
But look at the numbers that Stamkos and Kucherov have put up. Like, I mean, Tavares has put up great numbers, but what I'm saying
Mm-hmm.
is like Kucherov literally put up the most numbers in the league last year.
But I will say that hasn't been the Leafs' problem. Like the Leafs'
No, the
problem
offense-
has
that's what
not
I'm
been
saying.
not just the offense, but the top six. It hasn't been the issue. It's been the depth
the
of
back
the team,
end.
and it's been the defense. It's tough because the East has been so good over the last couple of years. Like, can you really blame the Leafs for losing these series, or is it just they just lost to better teams? Like, I don't know.
I mean, they could.
Yeah, it's not like they're losing to bad teams.
That's
Yeah.
It's
fair.
Boston. or it
Like
has
in the
been
West, I
Boston.
could argue they might have made a deeper run one of these years.
Yeah.
Well, and the problem is if they finish in a wild card spot, which is very possible, they're going to play either Boston or Washington, most likely. And those are the two teams they've literally lost to in the last 3 years.
Yeah.
Like Boston is the last
Dude,
team you want
if we're lucky enough to get Boston beating the Leafs every year for us
Lucky
NHL
enough.
fans that don't like the Leafs, then I feel like we should be lucky enough to get Oilers-Calgary matchup if the teams
the
are
Stars
both good.
have to align.
Yeah, like the
They
Stars
have to.
align for that, and it's like the same situation. It's like, can we just have the Stars align?
And
for
hopefully Pens Caps as well.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm ready for that.
I mean-
but they gotta get revenge first. They gotta sweep the Islanders and then
I don't
Washington.
want, I
for
told
round
John
two.
I don't want the Pens to play the Islanders. There's
I
something
mean,
about the
yeah, we're
Islanders.
something
2-0
about
and
the
1 in the
Islanders.
season series
their
right now.
coach,
so-
dude.
And
Yeah.
also,
Best coach in the
man,
league.
Yeah.
there could be playoff matchups that are insane. Like we're talking about, like possibly either Vancouver and Edmonton, and then or Calgary and Edmonton, or Calgary and Vancouver. That would still
Yeah.
be crazy. And then either Toronto, Boston, and then possibly like Washington, Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Like you never know, right? So like some of these playoff
Yeah.
matchups could be
There
absolutely
could be
insane.
some repeats of the first round last year too. Like a lot of those teams are still in it, so you might see round 2 for them. So yeah. Anyway, a team that won't be in the playoffs.
Buffalo Sabres.
Buffalo
One
Sabres.
failing franchise to another. We want to talk about the Sabres now.
I
Off the Leafs?
wasn't gonna make the joke. but I'm
Okay,
glad you
well
did.
I'll just say one thing about. I remember like 2 years, like Sabres fans were like saying the Sabres rebuild was like gonna be as successful as the Leafs rebuild. I just want to say that, like that.
There's
like,
been hype for
can
the
we look
Sabres.
at this? There has been
They
hype for the
started
Sabres.
off like I.
Well, last year the
And
10-game
look
win
now,
streak.
the Bills
Yeah.
are better than the Sabres. I mean, wow.
You got to
What
be.
world do we live in?
You've got to feel bad for like Buffalo sports fans.
I
Like
know.
Toronto sports fans, sure, but
Dude,
like Buffalo
me
sports
and-
No,
fans.
Toronto sports fans. But outside
Yeah.
of the Leafs, you've had a pretty decent couple of years. Raps, TFC's made 3 out of 4
Yeah,
MLS Cups.
true.
Like
Yeah.
the Jays are.
Well,
looking
the
to be-
Jays are definitely looking up.
No,
there
but I'm
anyway.
saying like overall, if we look
Yeah.
at like
Oh yeah,
years
back
and years.
since
Well,
1967.
Well, me and Ty went to a game in Buffalo last year. They played Pittsburgh, and
Yeah.
like the atmosphere, it was like a full rink. Like the atmosphere is pretty good. Like I mean, it's obviously not like it's gonna be
Buffalo,
in Toronto and like Canadian
yeah.
market teams, but it was like a full rink. Like like there was a
Yeah.
lot of supporters, a lot of old jerseys, new jerseys. So like to see it like empty, I saw a picture of it empty and like all this stuff
But
going
even
on.
when
I was like,
even
whoa.
when we went, it was a lot more. No, I'm not gonna say a lot more, but that's probably one of the most away fans I've ever seen. I've been to
Yeah,
probably
Pittsburgh, so.
that's
14,
what happens
15
when
different
you play
rings,
against
but-
Crosby, man. Like,
Yeah, I mean,
Crosby
I guess
fans
it's like
fall
that
out.
anywhere.
Also, though,
anywhere he
I've kind
goes.
of always gone through thinking that Buffalo has like a pretty diehard fan base for.
They
even
did well,
hockey.
yeah. In
They
terms of
do,
in
bro.
terms of
Man.
US,
They have a crazy
Yeah.
fan base.
I
in
think
terms of
this
US,
is just
like not
majorly
obviously not US
disappointing.
states, but US like teams and like states that are
Usually,
into
yeah.
it. Like New
The
York's pretty
American,
good.
like
especially Buffalo,
The Eastern.
Minnesota, Michigan, like all pretty hockey sport
Yeah.
teams. So like we said, they have supportive fans, but to see what's been going on with their fans, like there was like the phone call, there was the seats, like them leaving early.
Those
like
seats are brutal.
yeah.
Well, yeah, we'll get more into the Sabres here. I just want to say, if anyone in the live chat wants to bring anything up, and we can talk about it.
Yeah, we can run
Yeah,
across
get
some
in
quick
those
topics.
comments.
Yeah. So for the Sabres, just kind of overall discuss. I feel Jack Eichel. Okay, we'll chill on that. I mean,
they
honestly,
lost to the Wings
individually,
last
Eichel has
night.
been insane this year. I mean, if the Sabres were to like,
The Wings.
I don't know, if they were to make the playoffs, Jack Eichel would win the Hart and it wouldn't even be close. Like that guy's
Oh,
been
dude,
crazy.
come
They're
on.
not making
John.
the playoffs.
The
bro.
point differential has been like I don't have the
He's
numbers
having
in
a
front of
good
me.
year.
Man, the
Okay,
first
Mitch.
thing
I
the
think
Oilers-
Mitch is on me with this one.
we
Sorry
don't
to
wanna
interrupt.
talk
I'm just
about
gonna
the
say
Penguins power
the
play
Hart
right now.
Trophy. Like this is where I have the problem of like when people like
Yeah.
can't separate the Hart and Ted Lindsay. The Hart is the most valuable to your
Fair
team.
point, fair
The Ted
point.
Lindsay is the best player in the league.
Yeah, I agree.
The best player in the league
also,
versus
it's
the most
voted on
valuable.
differently though.
Exactly. So
Exactly,
Connor
yeah.
McDavid and Nate McKinnon, I will argue for sure they're in the Hart race right now. But what I'm saying about Jack Eichel is if the Sabres were, if he dragged the Sabres into the playoffs,
Definitely. Yeah.
So Taylor Hall, when he won his Hart Trophy, the next guy for points was Nico Hischier, and I think it was like a 42-point gap. Imagine having a 42-point gap between your top point producer and your next.
And you make the playoffs. Like
And you
sometimes
make the
that can
playoffs.
happen when you miss the playoffs or like you're
Yeah.
a bad team. But when you
You're a
actually
fringe
make
team.
the playoffs,
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, Eichel is playing with Reinhardt though. Like I mean, obviously.
But
it's not
Reinhardt's been
great.
really bad. Did you see Reinhardt last night? Reinhardt got ripped to
Yeah,
shreds.
it's a 22
Dude,
point
Reinhardt was the
difference
one
right now.
ripping the team to shreds.
No,
after
yes.
That
So
that Colorado loss.
yes, he
it's
did that.
interesting.
He did that. But,
Yeah.
and then last night against the Red
The
Wings.
Yeah, that's
So
brutal.
he got called out heavy. So I don't know if you guys saw the goal, but essentially, basically, it was a 2-on-1 puck carrier coming down the right side. Ristolainen. This is like hockey 101. I was always saying to my buddy, like hockey 101, like especially when you're in the NHL, you know if it's a 2-on-1, you are
Yeah.
not going to the puck carrier and
Yeah,
leaving
you
the guy
take the
across.
pass
You
every
take the
time.
pass.
Yeah.
That's hockey 101. Ristolainen. Late, like I'm not. We'll keep
well-
it PG. This guy goes to the puck carrier, and Reinhardt has the opportunity to go back and like back check,
Yeah.
and he just coasts. Anyways, one of the Buffalo reporters
Yeah.
ripped
Yeah.
him into shreds. Did you see that interview?
I saw that.
And he kept saying, "Oh, that's not a valued question." Reinhardt was just not about it. He's like,
What
"Oh,
do
I'm
you
not
think
answering your
it
question."
is?
It gave me like a Phil Kessel kind of like
Do you
throwback.
think it's coaching? Do you think it's
Well, Ralph
What is
Kruger's quote was even better. So the Sabres fans were obviously booing, and he was like, "I live in the heart of Buffalo. You know what? These Sabres fans, they're okay to boo in our arena, but when I see them in Buffalo, they give me their energy. They want to support this team." I'm like Ralph Kruger. Your team's literally shit. Like you're like really bad.
Whoa?
Yeah.
Where's the bleep button?
Yeah.
You're
So-
alive,
Anyway,
bro.
so the thing you mentioned Ristolainen after that Avs game, he gave an interview after and he was like, "Oh, well, before the game, like we all had meetings, we sat down, like we tried to address the team. I don't know what happened tonight." So it means that like they obviously that realize what's going on and how bad they're spiraling. They tried to do the team meeting thing, which sometimes could work with teams. I don't know. But it just didn't work. And then Ristolainen said like he thought the team was in a good spot and it wasn't. And then since then they've lost 6-1 to Colorado and then lost to Detroit last night.
They lost to Ottawa like
they're giving
a
me
week or two
Oh,
ago
they have-
as well.
they're
So-
giving me Ottawa vibes where they're like where one thing goes wrong and everything goes wrong.
Okay,
which
well,
is
so
That's
sad
yeah.
to
the
see.
culture of the team.
Yeah.
Well,
right
they have
now.
a 1-4-1 record in their last 6 games, and out of those losses, they've lost to the Red Wings, Senators, and Habs. Those 3 teams in those 6 games. Like when you've lost those
Yeah.
in a 6-game stretch like that, those 3 teams. I mean, the Habs have been better lately, but Ottawa and Detroit.
Dude, the funny
Yeah.
thing is, Buffalo. I'm looking at it now. Buffalo's at 54 points. If they were in the Western Conference, like they wouldn't even be totally out of it, out of the wild card.
Oh, and I actually saw that, and it's funny because like everyone kept saying like the Atlantic was garbage, the Atlantic was
Yeah.
garbage, but like if you look at the top 4 of the
West is
Atlantic,
garbage, bro.
look at that Pacific Division. I mean, it's not garbage. I would argue it's more competitive.
It's competitive, but
I
that
think-
doesn't mean it's good.
Okay, but what
I don't think the Canucks would be anywhere close to the playoffs if they played in the Metro.
I think the
Not a
Metro.
chance.
I
No,
think
the
the
Metro's
Metro.
gotta be the most-
Metro and the Central for me are the 2 best divisions.
Yeah, the Metro's
I
really
think that's fair.
balanced.
It's been like that for the last few
The
years.
Atlantic, I would argue, is just more top heavy. Like the top 4. And
Yeah,
I-
they're
Well, they have
really
the
good.
Bruins.
well,
Okay.
Bruins, Lightning,
Like, aren't
Florida,
they in first
Toronto.
right now in
Yeah.
the league?
All right, so
So-
moving on from that though, there's one thing I definitely wanted to talk about was Ovi and the tear. That was like what he's been doing is just
7 goals or what was it 14
Dude,
goals?
it's like
7
no,
games?
it's 16 goals in his last 10 games. I read
Okay,
this.
yeah.
I read today.
You can just add more games.
Which is yeah, I mean,
it doesn't
that
make
was the
my
latest
stat invalid.
Yeah, fair. But like 60, that was the stat I read. 16 goals in the last 10 games. So
Okay, what is he at right now? 698.
And he
He's
plays the
in-
he's got
Flyers
one-
tomorrow. You get
he's
2.
got
He's in
196
eighth
to go.
place
He's got
overall.
196
Okay,
goals
so
to go.
Ovi's record's 894.
Or no,
What?
Gretzky.
Gretzky.
Oh,
Oh,
this guy's
Gretzky,
already
sorry,
preparing,
Gretzky.
dude.
Oh, wow, you're way
No,
up.
yeah,
This guy's
my
doing
my
the show
bad.
2
Gretzky's
years from
record's
now.
894.
and Ovechkin's at.
You guys got what I was
at
saying. You guys got what I was saying.
698.
Okay.
Ovechkin's at 698.
So that 894 is the number to get, was what I'm saying. So
To me-
everyone's been talking about like, is he going to get like
196.
40 goals a season for the next like?
He's going to
Ovi-
need, we were talking about this in class yesterday, among other things, Draisaitl Matthews, but he's going to need, I think, 6 seasons of like 30-ish.
33 goals for 6
Man,
seasons.
Ovi's
Yeah, okay.
kind of like
Yeah.
it's something about like I don't
He's
know if it's like the
34
people
years
from
old.
like the guys from like Czech Republic, Russia. Like I feel like Ovi's giving me like those Yager vibes.
Yeah, I think he's
Like,
going to play for a long time.
I think he's gonna play
definitely.
till like 40, 41.
did-
and, like,
He did say he was going to retire once he hits it.
The thing
so-
about Ovi,
Oh, yeah, why
he has
wouldn't
that he has that Yager like
Mentality.
not mentality, but the same way that they play, sort of, where
Mm-hmm.
Yager was like really skilled early in his career and had like the combination of size, speed, skill, and that's what Ovi had. But then Ovi, I feel like Yager, could still dominate in his later years just based off his size and ability, like hockey IQ.
well, I think Ovi grew into more of a like. Look at what happened. The Caps didn't win a Stanley Cup until he was like decently
a
into his
more
30s. You know.
well-rounded player.
Exactly. Like
But-
Ovi was that individual, like, and people would even say he was maybe selfish, but like he was
Yeah.
that more of that individual, like, and still he loves scoring goals. We're not gonna say he doesn't, but what
I
I'm
mean,
saying
yeah.
is like Yager got the 2 cups and then like didn't win again. You know.
Yeah, and he was kind of like he wasn't the primary player of the 2 cups.
Yeah.
But
He
like
was playing with
I'm
some
not
other guy
comparing
on
the two as
Pittsburgh.
players.
No,
I'm
no, no, no,
comparing
I know
them like later in their careers. Like Yager was able to play so long because he was so physically dominant, even at 40 plus years old, where he was still able to hang in the NHL and still body people like and get inside and score that way. instead of just ripping clappers from the blue line. You know what I mean?
I got one note here for Ovi, looking like a man possessed. I mean, the guy looks insane.
The game
up there.
versus the Kings. I mean, down 2-1. However many minutes left in the third, you score the tying goal off a great feed from TJ Oshie. I believe it was a one-timer.
Yeah.
You take the lead a minute later, and then you score an empty netter goal for fun to hit 698.
And to get the hat trick on,
that's
the
absurd.
Hat trick on the
Is this a bad comparison? He's sort of like, I've never seen a player like him in this era where he can just score from anywhere. I feel like he's like Steph Curry.
No, it's. There's no goal scorer like him in this era. Definitely not. I mean, he's the only one who's
like. Do we think he's the greatest goal scorer of all time?
Without a doubt.
Without a doubt.
I don't think Gretzky could do it.
I don't think Gretzky was even the greatest.
Goalies.
I think Lemieux was.
In terms of goal scoring.
Yeah. But
greatest player of all time, Gretzky.
We're talking about this is the tough thing for me. We're talking about different eras. We're talking about different eras.
The best modern goal scorer obviously is Ovechkin. The fact that he's even passing these guys who were scoring in the previous eras
think
just
at
puts
this
him
point
over
he
that.
is. I think he is the greatest because of the era he plays in, because of the dominance and the
Not
consistency
to mention,
he's had.
one of the stats that I often bring up when talking about Draisaitl is first player since Stamkos in 2012.
Oh, here we go.
To score 50 goals. That wasn't Ovechkin.
You should save this ammunition.
So Ovechkin's been scoring 50 goals, and then it was a big deal when someone else hit it. So it kind of puts everyone out of contention
what if he
at that
hits
point.
60 this year? I know that's pretty absurd.
I think
but
he's on pace for it now.
How
dude.
old is
He's on pace for it after this last.
34?
I have it right here. He's 34.
Okay.
Turns 35.
I just guessed
in
there.
September.
Wow, I'm accurate on this.
So he'll be 35 to start next year, next season. But I mean, if he
I think he can play till he's 40. That's fine.
Dude, if he gets 60 this year, that's a huge boost for him too. Also in his personal chase, right? Because that would put him. I mean, he's only 10 away from Mike Gartner for 7th all time, and then from that on, it's kind of
he's gonna
smaller
get
increments.
second
It's 10 goals here, 10 goal. They're 10 goals apart, pretty much.
Isn't
all
Howe
the way
90
up
goals
to 800?
below?
No, Howe is at 801, and then Gretzky's at 894.
Yeah, so 90. I think Ovechkin's easily gonna get second. I think that's.
If
without
he keeps
question,
playing like this,
unless he has a career-ending injury.
Which
wait,
fingers
knock on
crossed.
wood.
I mean, as
Knock
Penguins
on wood.
fans, we're not
knock on wood.
we're not necessarily trained to like Ovechkin, but I mean, at some point, you just have to be like, okay, I respect this guy for the goal scorer he is.
Yeah.
We had all the playoff battles through the 2010s, but at the end of the day, you
honestly,
I
like John said though, I think he's really grown on a lot of fans, especially in Canada.
Yeah.
Because when you're a Russian player and you're dominant like that, there's still that whole stigma of you don't want to like him. But I think past his early years, kind of over the past 5 or so years, Ovechkin fans have grew, and the respect has grown for him because his approach to the game, his style of play.
He's larger than life. He's one of the hockey personalities that's larger than life, and there isn't that many because you got which is obviously not great for the league, but it's great as a McDavid fan that I don't need to deal with any controversy. It's probably great as a Crosby fan that you don't either. Yeah. But I'm just looking here. So
the Cup celebration said it all in terms of personality.
He's swimming in fountains.
He sits at 40 goals in 53 games, a stunning 62 goal pace for this year.
He took off the All-Star break and got suspended for a game just because he didn't want to go.
We'll
Sorry,
see.
did I hear Austin Matthews on a pace for 59 goals? Did I hear that or something?
Yeah, I got a $5 bet that he. I made this at the start of the year that he wouldn't hit 50 goals. So I think
you're losing that bet.
I think I'm eating my words at some point.
Yeah, you're losing that bet.
Hey, it'll be nice. It'll be nice to see one of your favorite players hit the 50 goal mark. I can tell you some tips on how to embrace all of it. It happened.
It's fresh for Leafs fans.
It's fresh for Oilers fans. Something new for Leafs fans. So I'll let you know how it's.
We're in our last 10 minutes, so let's go over some just not really power rankings, but let's go over some of the teams we think are in the lead for the race to the cup.
Yeah. You want to start us off then, John?
Yeah, so my predictions at the start of the year, I was going with, and I still think this team is has potential to make the playoffs and be a sneaky team. The Preds. Honestly, the Preds have struggled. They changed coaching. Laviolette, see you later.
They're not too far off right
They're
now.
not too far off. They're what? They beat Calgary last night.
They have
actually
59 points.
Are they not in a wild card spot now or no? Or are they just out?
No, I don't think so.
I can check.
I don't think they are.
Sec.
Anyways, they beat Calgary.
They're one off. They're right behind Calgary. Yeah. But they do have 2 games in hand.
They have 2 games in hand. So they have the games in hand. Right now, in terms of point percentage, they would be in a playoff spot. I'm just looking at the Preds, and I honestly think they could be a sneaky team. But right now, obviously, if we're talking about just an overall team, I would look at the Avalanche.
Off the Blues?
I would look at the Avalanche or Blues. Honestly, in that Central Division, I would look at the Avalanche or Blues.
I mean, my pick at this point's the Avs.
I like the Stars too.
Well, I had the Stars. Yeah.
But the Stars have Bishop.
I got the Caps, as much as I hate to say it. I don't know if I'm like.
No, I mean in the West.
Oh, in terms of just West.
I'm thinking
like
Stars. I'm thinking Blues. Maybe Avalanche. I think it's between one of those three teams.
Like I said, I'm going
Avs,
Avalanche right now. I see a lot of people in the chat talking about Makar. I mean, they've got an absolute beast team right now. It seems like everything's clicking. They've got
and they're still 6 points behind.
They've got good old Nova Scotian boy from Yarmouth, Nova Scotia.
He's going to talk about the
Graves.
Nova Scotia boys.
Yeah, he's come out. He's come out as a great player for them, so it just kind of adds to the aura that is. Like I was looking at their lineup yesterday, they had like Kadri's like in the middle of the lineup for points, which is like I guess like where it's like supposed to be. But it's like if you got that guy if you got him contributing, you got like everyone contributing. I don't really see like a power. I mean, there's might be teams that are like that are better, but I don't know. I see a lot of potential in them for making a run this year.
Well, the one thing I actually want to touch, I'm glad you said Kadri, because a lot of people actually didn't realize how good Kadri was, I don't think. And I'm seeing a lot of Avalanche fans. I'm not saying Kadri's a crazy good player.
Really good at getting suspended in the playoffs.
That's true.
Okay, but what I'm saying is, like, I'm seeing a lot of Avalanche fans, specifically on Twitter, just like raving about Nazem Kadri, because, man, he does bring that, like,
he's a solid, like, number 3.
Come on, he's a man. He's a number 2 on a lot of teams. Like, look, he's the number 2 on the Avalanche.
Yeah, but I think you want him as your number 3, though.
Well, if you have him,
if you can afford
it. If you have him as your number 3, that's because he has an insane
I
contract.
don't think he's like the greatest offensive player, but he's like really solid.
Okay, but he has he's put up 30 goals. I mean, okay, what I'm going to say is he is a guy that, like, if you have him on your third line, it's because of the great contract he has. He's on a $4.5 million cap hit, which is like insane.
Less than Jack Johnson.
Less.
Gross.
He hasn't been that bad this year.
Oh no, this year.
And obviously, if he's on your second line, that's still not bad at all. And look at the Avalanche.
Yeah.
Anyways,
that's because
let's transition to the East.
The East is gonna win the cup. I have no doubt.
Yeah, it's such a stronger division.
It's not even a competition.
You have no doubt. Who won it last year?
Okay, yeah, but I think Washington
That's a
could
hot.
edge out
I mean,
St.
I
Louis.
don't think it's a hot take. I'm willing to put it out there.
A no-doubter on the East winning. That is a hot. No doubt. Hot take, bro.
It's the
bro, that might even, we might be going
that,
towards a cold take on that one. Avalanche, Blues, like Golden Knights. Come on.
No, I can agree with him to an extent.
I don't.
But no doubter.
Like
we're talking. Are we talking
no
about?
Doubt. Lock it in right now.
Are we talking about A-Rod? No doubter, third deck.
Lock it in. Lock it in, bro.
Okay. Well, East. We'll talk about East.
East. Okay. Who's your number 1 team in the East?
Lightning.
I got the Caps as much as I want to say the Penguins.
Lightning. I think
I gotta go.
If the Penguins had Gensel, I would.
Well, they will.
Yeah, if they get to the second, maybe third round, but I don't.
I'm thinking it's between those 4 teams.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's broad. Let's close it in a
okay.
little more.
Lightning, Boston, Penguins, Caps.
Okay, who's your team?
I think it's gonna be Lightning, Pens.
In the Eastern Conference.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're expecting a Penguins Capitals second round matchup?
When is there not?
Well, yeah, I don't know how that's gonna break down yet. But
well, okay, but right now, if it
I'm
it
saying
would be what
those
Penguins Islanders first round,
Yeah.
which you were already nervous about.
I'm nervous about that.
Okay, so
but
say
I
Penguins.
think that's more of a matchup thing. That's
Okay,
not
so,
necessarily a skill.
Again, I don't have
like
it.
the feel of the Penguins this year.
Okay, I don't have it in front of me though.
No, if they can make a deadline acquisition, which I mean, it's Jim
think
Rutherford.
they're really honestly for a team that's like
Jason Zucker or Chris Kreider?
I was saying Zucker from Minnesota.
for
You
me.
just give them some prospects and some picks, which I mean, we have some good prospects.
I'm not
to deal.
really a huge Kreider guy.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
All right, so
Okay, we have 5 minutes.
I was just gonna say I was gonna put in my East team. I was just gonna say Boston. Last year,
Boston's really
last year I had tons of confidence in Boston going into that finals, and then
I was so disappointed. Maybe
really
that's why.
disappointed.
Maybe that's why I'm not so high on them right now.
Yeah.
It's just because like last year they disappointed.
Dude, the team has 10 regulations losses this year though, and
they're
55
really
games
good.
in. Like that's pretty nasty. That's like not easy to
That's
do.
why I'm saying. I mean, this conference is crazy, dude.
Yeah, but I just wanted to touch on. We got like a little less than 4 minutes here, but I was just gonna say a couple big weekend matchups too. Going into the weekend, Habs versus Leafs. Obviously, that's always a good one.
Obviously,
that's coming up.
the Habs will win.
That's coming up tomorrow night.
Yeah, it's tomorrow night.
Saturday night.
Second half of a back-to-back for the Leafs, so it'll be interesting to see. We talked about it before, but
we got that same night. We got Calgary, Vancouver. Obviously, a huge game. Not a great game to see as an Oilers fan. Is by the looks of it, someone's going to be tying us or
those are really the two
taking
big
a higher
ones.
lead.
Islanders,
Either way,
it's kind of a boring game for the.
I found another one. Found another one. Blackhawks versus Jets Sunday night.
That's a good one.
That's a good one because Jets
Both are
and
just
Blackhawks.
outside of the
they're
wild
just
card.
outside the wild card.
Yeah.
Jets, Blackhawks are 2 points out of that last spot, and the Jets are only 1. So winner of that could potentially. I mean, it depends how the other games fall. Could potentially fall into that wild card spot.
And then I think Pittsburgh, Tampa. I know it's not the weekend, but I think they play again on Monday or Tuesday. Is it Tuesday?
Tuesday.
Yeah, I mean that was a great game on.
Yesterday.
I don't know what day of the week it even is today.
Okay, well, I'll just say why I think Tampa is going to be that team just because last year everyone had them to win the cup.
It's like the Caps thing.
It's like the Caps. That's literally what I think. It's literally the Caps where everyone the year before had the Caps winning, and then everyone just forgot about them, and then they won.
Yeah.
I literally think that's going to be the Lightning.
That's what I also like about where Pittsburgh's at right now. They're like still sneaking under that radar.
Yeah.
And not to pump my own tires, but I said finishing the Atlantic was first Boston, second Tampa, third Florida. Like I honestly think that's how it's going to.
It's
Wait,
weird.
we'll see. You had Toronto on a wild card.
At the start of the year, before the season even started,
Really?
I had Toronto at the
Dude,
first.
and now Toronto doesn't even have themselves in a wild card.
I got to give you some respect for that. As a Leafs fan, you not having them like just
no,
instantly cup
I looked at
winners
honestly, and I was
year?
actually surprised how kind of rough Bobrovsky's played, but Florida's still so
I
deep.
know. Dude, if Bobrovsky can lock in, like that team literally does nothing but score. They like that's why they signed Bobrovsky.
They're gross.
So
that team's great, and
yeah.
I think the only reason they're not doing better is because like.
I mean,
they're still the Panthers,
yeah.
and they still need a lot more experience, right?
I will say this: if Boston gets the President's Trophy, this is the Leafs' year to knock them off.
Ooh.
Let's do it.
Yeah,
All right, let's little outro wrap up. Any last words? Thanks, guys, for first show. I just want to say
Do we want to play our little stingers?
Yeah, we can. I just want to say first on behalf of myself, like there was a couple technical difficulties. I think on YouTube we were like muted for the first 30 seconds, and like Spirit Live we had a little bit of struggles at the start. But
I thought you were gonna say 30 minutes there.
No,
right.
30 seconds or whatever it was, maybe a minute. But anyways,
next week.
I apologize. Next week we're gonna be a lot better set. But last minute of play. Let's. Any last words, Jeff? Mitch?
I don't know. Go Oilers.
We didn't get to our debate, our Matthews drive.
Yeah,
so
we'll
look
at that next
week. We're gonna have to
Next
pencil
week.
that in next week.
Yeah.
Just for
next
the sake
week.
Of it.
Oh no, it's putting the pressure. That's putting the pressure on. I gotta get research.
Maybe you guys can get on Hot Take Hockey.
Yeah, maybe that's
live on stream.
Yeah.
All right, we'll say bye to YouTube and then we'll say bye to Spirit Live. But see you YouTube.
Logging it off.
See you tonight.
Yeah.
Leafs Ducks. We streaming.
Bye, YouTube.